She laughed when she said it, but I knew the sting was real. We were standing in the middle of her office break room, me holding her coffee, just the way she liked it, when one of her coworkers teased, "So what romantic thing has he done lately?" She didn't miss a beat. "Romantic? Please." He thinks bringing me takeout is a grand gesture. Cue the laughter. Her coworkers chuckled. She smirked. And I just stood there, smiling like it didn't cut deep. Like I hadn't spent the last year pouring quiet effort into someone who only noticed the loud stuff. That moment rewired something in me. So the next morning, I did the thing she said I never did. I sent her flowers. 12 long-stemmed roses, delivered right to her desk. Elegant. Bold. The entire office lit up with awe and jealous side eyes. She was thrilled. Finally, something Instagram-worthy. She smiled, held them up, took photos like she'd won some imaginary contest. Then she opened the card. And the smile drained from her face as she read. "Roses are red. Violets are blue. This is the last thing I'll ever buy for you." She looked around, staring at the same coworkers she tried to impress at my expense. They weren't laughing now. Neither was she. From the beginning, I gave her everything I had, not just gifts or gestures, but time, patience, energy. The kind of love you don't post about, the kind that isn't flashy but shows up consistently. She used to say I was different. That I was stable. That after a string of dramatic exes, I was the calm she needed. I'd cook her dinner after her late shifts, leave notes in her bag when she had a tough week, surprise her with her favorite snacks on movie nights. I remembered the little things, like how she hated ketchup but loved hot sauce, or that she couldn't sleep without background noise. I was never the guy sending rose petals or planning hot air balloon rides. That just wasn't my style. But when she mentioned once, offhand, that she missed her mom's old soup recipe, I spent 3 days figuring out how to recreate it. Called her cousin, found a handwritten version online, even bought the exact brand of crackers her mom used. That's the kind of romantic I was. But over time, she stopped noticing. Or maybe she just got bored of good. I started to see it in the way she scrolled through her phone while I talked. The way she always forgot to say thank you. The way her tone changed around her friends, like I wasn't her partner, just someone tagging along. It came to a head one night when she was out with her coworkers, and I dropped by her office to bring her the coffee she texted me about. Nothing special, just a little surprise before her shift ended. But when I got there, and one of her coworkers jokingly asked her what romantic thing I'd done lately, she rolled her eyes. "Romantic," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Let's be honest. He's sweet, but the guy couldn't plan a romantic moment if his life depended on it." Everyone laughed. She looked right at me, smirking, and added, "I think the last time he did something romantic was, actually, has it ever happened?" And that was it. That was the moment something in me cracked, not in an angry way. Not even sadness. Just silence. Because I realized then that no matter how many times I showed up for her, it would never be enough. Not for someone who confused grand with genuine. Not for someone who measured love in social media moments and dramatic scenes, instead of quiet, daily care. I smiled, nodded, and handed her the coffee. But in my head, I was already done. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I just made a quiet decision. If she wanted romance, I'd give her something she, and her entire office, would never forget. And I promise you, she didn't see it coming. It was a Sunday morning brunch, one of those casual get-togethers where everyone pretends they're relaxed but really just wants to flex their relationships and outfits. We were seated at a long outdoor table with her coworkers, most of whom I barely knew. Mimosas clinked, someone was showing off their new engagement ring, and I was sitting quietly, listening more than I spoke, like always. I had come straight from an overnight shift, exhausted but smiling, just to be there for her. I thought that mattered. Then someone, some oversmiled woman across the table, looked at us and said, "You two are cute. What's the most romantic thing he's ever done?" I looked at my girlfriend, expecting her to say something sweet. Maybe that time I built her a custom shelf for her books, or the night I drove 2 hours to bring her meds when she was sick at her mom's place. Something. Anything. But she laughed. Loudly. Romantic, she said, rolling her eyes. He thinks paying for dinner without being asked counts. Or bringing me flowers from a gas station. The table burst into laughter. Even her tone, light, flippant, dismissive, sliced right through me. Someone added, "Well, hey, at least he tries." To which she replied, "Barely. He's a good guy, but you know, not every good guy knows how to be romantic." She looked at me mid-laugh, as if I was supposed to be in on the joke. I smiled. That kind of smile you give when your dignity is the only thing keeping you from cracking. Because here's the thing, when someone makes fun of you behind your back, it hurts. But when they do it in front of you, with an audience, it's humiliating. It becomes performance art. And I realized in that moment, this wasn't the first time. She'd made similar jokes before, at parties, with her friends, with her sister. He's too nice. He's boring. He's not romantic. And every time, I swallowed it. Took it like a punch I thought I deserved. Told myself it wasn't that deep. But it was. She didn't respect me. And worse, she didn't value me. So I laughed too. Just enough to keep things from getting awkward. I let the brunch finish. I smiled during pictures. I kissed her goodbye at the car. But inside, I was planning. I didn't want to scream or argue. I didn't want to explain, again, that love isn't always a fireworks show. I was tired of being judged for loving quietly. Of being told I wasn't enough because I didn't perform romance like a TikTok boyfriend. No, this time, I'd let my actions speak. The next morning, I called a local flower shop. Ordered 12 long-stemmed roses, scheduled to be delivered to her office by noon. Red, elegant, impossible to ignore. And I asked the florist to write something personal on the card. A poem. One that rhymed. One she'd never forget. Because if she wanted romance, then I was going to give her the most poetic ending she never saw coming. I knew the timing had to be perfect. Monday morning, right after lunch, when everyone at her office would be back at their desks, bored, scrolling through their phones, waiting for the clock to tick toward 5 p.m. That's when the flowers would arrive. That's when the show would begin. 12 long-stemmed red roses, arranged in a pristine glass vase, hand-delivered to her office floor by a man in a crisp white shirt and black tie. I wanted it to look high-end, cinematic, the kind of delivery people took photos of for Instagram stories with captions like asterisk, someone's lucky smiling face with hard eyes. Asterisk. And sure enough, around 12:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a picture from her. She was holding the roses up to her face, grinning wide. No caption, just a heart emoji. Then another text followed. "What's the occasion?" "You didn't have to." I didn't respond. I could picture it in my head, the way her coworkers probably lit up, swarming her desk, crowding around the flowers, asking who sent them, squealing over how sweet I was. I imagined her blushing, brushing her hair behind her ear, loving every second of being the center of attention. She probably bragged a little. "See, I told you he could be romantic." And then she opened the card. I had asked the florist to write it exactly like this, in clean cursive, bold at the top. "Roses are red. Violets are blue. This is the last thing I'll ever buy for you." Just 4 lines. That's all it took. At 12:23 p.m., she stopped texting. At 12:35 p.m., my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. By 12:47, the screenshot started rolling in, sent from a mutual friend who also worked at the company. A photo of her sitting stunned at her desk. One of the coworkers had snapped it and added a snarky caption. "Plot twist of the year." Apparently, as soon as she read the card out loud, before she could hide it, one of the girls nearby burst out laughing, then whispered, "Damn, he really said bye with a poem?" Word spread like wildfire across the office. People stopped by her desk, pretending to grab papers they didn't need, sneaking glances at the flowers that now looked more like funeral arrangements for a dead relationship. The same co-workers who used to laugh with her at my expense? They weren't laughing now. One even messaged me later that evening. Petty. Savage. Beautiful. Respect. She, on the other hand, called me 5 times. Left voicemails that started with confusion, shifted to anger, and ended with frantic backpedaling. Why would you do that? It was just a joke. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You're really going to throw away our relationship over this? But I didn't throw it away. She did. The moment she turned my love into a punchline. And the roses? They weren't revenge. They were closure, with a bow. By that evening, her voicemails had gone from furious to desperate. At first it was all about her reputation, how I'd made her look stupid in front of her coworkers, how everyone's talking about it, how I was the immature one for airing things publicly. But the truth is, I didn't air anything. I just sent flowers. I didn't call her names. I didn't post some messy breakup rant on social media. I didn't scream or cry or beg her to see my worth. I let a $65 bouquet and a 4-line poem do the talking. And that silence. It said more than 1,000 arguments ever could. The next day, I packed my things. We were living together in a 1-bedroom apartment, which I'd mostly paid for. She'd been staying with a friend that week. Something about a girls' reset trip that turned into a long weekend and a pile of passive-aggressive texts about how I never surprised her anymore. Surprise. By the time she came home, I was already gone. I left her the furniture, except for the bookshelf I built by hand and the set of pans she always hated but I loved. I left a simple sticky note on the fridge. You said I wasn't romantic. Turns out, I was just loving the wrong person. Her reaction. Explosive. She called me crying, accusing me of being heartless, of orchestrating everything to make her look bad. She even said, "You've turned everyone against me." I reminded her that the only people who turned on her were the ones who watched her mock me for months, and now finally saw who I really was beneath the quiet smile and patient gestures. She tried to twist the narrative. Told mutual friends I'd blindsided her, that I was petty and cold. But she'd underestimated me in more ways than one, because the people who knew me, really knew me, had seen everything. The patience. The sacrifices. The way I bent over backward to make her happy in a dozen quiet ways every single day. And now, they were proud of me. Her favorite coworker, the one who used to laugh at her stories, messaged me privately. I always wondered why you stayed with someone who didn't seem to like you very much. That poem. It was poetry in motion, my guy. I didn't reply. Because for once, I didn't need validation. I had my peace. She, on the other hand, had to sit at that same desk every day, walk past those same coworkers, and see those same dozen roses, now wilted in the break room trash can, as a reminder that she'd lost something real while looking for something performative. She wanted romance. She got a poem that burned louder than any grand gesture. She wanted attention. She got a whole damn office watching her unravel. And me. I got my dignity back, wrapped in petals, sealed in silence. A few weeks passed. No calls. No texts. Just silence. Not the kind that hurts, but the kind that heals. I'd moved into a small studio across town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. No passive-aggressive sticky notes. No side comments disguised as jokes. No walking on eggshells to keep someone entertained. Just peace. I started reconnecting with parts of myself I hadn't touched in months, maybe even years. I started running again. I cooked for myself instead of someone who always criticized how I seasoned the chicken. I even reached out to some old friends I'd drifted from during the relationship, friends she'd quietly pushed away because they weren't her kind of people. And something wild happened. I felt light. Not because I had finally gotten revenge, but because I had stopped trying to prove myself to someone who never really saw me. Then, one night, I got a DM from a girl I barely knew, someone I'd met once at a party ages ago. She worked in the same office as my ex. "Hey, I know this is random, but I just wanted to say what you did. That was legendary. She talked down to you for months. You handled it like a king. I smiled. Apparently, the rose story had become a thing, a bit of office folklore. People had turned it into a cautionary tale, how not to treat someone who loves you. The card had been photographed, shared in group chats, maybe even used as a meme. And her? She tried to spin the narrative. Said I was cold, too sensitive, unable to take a joke. But jokes only work when they're funny to both people. And love? Love doesn't survive on sarcasm and shame. One of her former coworkers told me she transferred departments, said it was too awkward after everything. I wasn't surprised. What did surprise me was how many people, strangers even, reached out to say, "Thanks for standing up for yourself. A lot of us never do." That hit me, because for so long, I thought being a good partner meant putting up with things. Letting the small stuff go. Being patient. Being understanding. Turning the other cheek every time I was brushed off or laughed at or dismissed. But love without respect? It's nothing. So now, I live differently. I love differently. I don't hide the way I care, but I don't chase people who treat that care like a burden. And sometimes, when I pass by a flower shop, I catch the scent of roses in the air and smile to myself, not with bitterness, but pride. Because somewhere out there, she's still explaining that poem. Still trying to make it sound like I was the problem. But the truth is, she asked for romance. And I gave her the perfect ending, with 12 red roses and 4 unforgettable lines.